What is up, everybody? Joel Klatt here, and this is in the booth, kind of. It's actually in my home. Rare off week. I don't suggest it. Wasn't the best day of my life because I just love calling college football. We didn't get an opportunity to do that. Of course, we were supposed to do Baylor-Houston. That one got nixed on Friday. I know everyone was really disappointed. We were disappointed. I wanted to see that game. Most players wanted to play that game, but it did not happen. Now, so this is going to be in the home / in the booth. It is always brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Remember, it is the official drink of Fansville. Okay, big day of college football, even though there wasn't a lot of games. And the reason is because the Big Ten schedule dropped. So we're going to get to that in just a moment. But first, some props for some guys that performed really well during the course of the day. Obviously, Clemson. I mean, it was Citadel, so whatever, but you guys look legit, obviously, right? I mean, the defense is good. The defensive line, although young, looks dominant. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's the best player in college football on any given week and probably is the number one pick in the draft. So, yes, Clemson is right there. By the way, Notre Dame looked much better today. So the Irish maybe making a little bit of a push. You never know in that ACC. Remember, if they were to try to go to the playoff, they would probably have to beat Clemson at least once. This has not been talked about a lot. They play in the regular season. They would then have to play again in the ACC championship game. I just don't think Notre Dame's going to go to the playoff if they've got two losses, both to Clemson. Even if Clemson is the hands-down number one team in the country, I don't see the playoff committee doing that, in particular now with the Big 12 back. We'll see if the Pac-12 is back and some of those schools. So just keep that in your back pocket that Notre Dame likely has to beat Clemson at least once, whether it's in the regular season or in the ACC championship game. So there's that. Miami, how about that? I've loved what they're doing tonight against Louisville. In particular, D'Eriq King. This guy looks like the player he was a few years ago at Houston. And we've all said, me especially, that if Miami got some semblance of quality quarterback play, watch out. You know they've got the athletes. So this could be a year that Miami pushes a little bit. And now all of a sudden with Notre Dame and Miami, the ACC looks a little deeper than it had in previous seasons. Also in the ACC, a big shout out to Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley's the new head coach at Boston College. They got a big win over Duke in a dominant fashion. They were underdogs in that game, went on the road, and won that game by 20, I think. Going away 26-6, I think that score was. So big win for the new head coach, Jeff Hafley. He was at Ohio State last year, got to know him very well because we did 7 of their games, and he was great to us. So congratulations to him. Now let's get into a team that I've not generally been great to, UCF. Are we good? What can we hug it out? I'm in my house. It's been a rough day. Can we hug it out? Because you looked great. You really did. And I'm giving you props. UCF, you look like the real deal. All right. You were the real deal a couple of years ago, and you look like the real deal this year. And if there's going to be a year where a group of 5 team gets into the playoff, it's probably a year like this, right? I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows whose games get postponed and so on and so forth. So UCF, nice job today. That was an absolute thumping of Georgia Tech. So good on you. And that's a Georgia Tech team, remember, that beat Florida State, although I don't think any of us think Florida State is all that good this year. So UCF, big ups to you. Keep it going. Playoff sleeper, you never know. And now to the meat and potatoes of what today was all about, which I thought was the Big Ten schedule release. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 2 teams that got hammered and 3 that I thought got a really favorable draw in this Big Ten schedule. So Big Ten fans, listen up, because here we go. The 3 most favorable schedules in this year's Big Ten schedule are Ohio State, number 1, Wisconsin, number 2, and Minnesota, number 3. Those are the 3 most favorable schedules, and it's very easy. You know why? Because those 3 don't play Ohio State. That's the bottom line, folks. All right, when it comes to the Big Ten schedule, that's where it starts and stops, is if you have to play this Ohio State team. Ohio State themselves probably going to be favored by close to double digits in every single one of their games, pending what happens with health, of course, and COVID-related benchings and so on and so forth with isolation and quarantine. But that team is really good, in particular with a couple of those opt-back ends, Sean Wade and Wyatt Davis, the guard, who's probably a first-round player. So Ohio State looks primed, right? I thought that they got a really good draw in their schedule. Why? Because they're Ohio State. It didn't really matter. I know they have to go to Penn State. When would you want to go to Penn State and play in a whiteout game in a year in which they basically have no fans? So that's a good draw for Ohio State. So they're number one. And then the other two are from the opposite division because what did they do? Avoided Ohio State. And I would classify Wisconsin and Minnesota as I thought the favorites in that Western Division going into the season. Then they miss Ohio State. Good on them, right? I think that was a huge deal for Wisconsin and for Minnesota both. And then you look at two teams that I thought got absolutely hammered. And it's easy to look at this and be like, well, yeah, duh. But Michigan and Nebraska got roasted. And the reason is because those two teams, for their two crossover games, are facing what I would deem as the two favorites in the opposite division, right? So Michigan's sitting there. Who do they have on their schedule? Both Wisconsin and Minnesota. What does Nebraska have? You wanted to play? You got it. Open up in the shoe. What? I mean, listen, if you don't think that the Big Ten office has something in there, right? I mean, like, hey, here's Penn State and Ohio State. Good luck. Good luck, Scott. You wanted to play? You were going to play without us? Go ahead. Open up in the shoe. And guess what? Gus and I are going to be there. That's going to be a Big Noon Kickoff game. You know it was going to be a Big Noon Kickoff game. October 24th, we'll be in the shoe. Gus and I, Jenny will be on the sidelines, and I can't wait for that game. And Nebraska better come ready to play because that Ohio State team is absolutely legit. One thing is a lot of people saying like, hey, Purdue got an easy schedule. Yeah, I don't consider them a favorite. Right? So maybe they shock me. I don't know. I like Jeff Brom. I like what he's doing. But when you look at Minnesota and you look at Wisconsin, those are two teams that I think can actually win the division. And they missed Ohio State in the opposite side of the draw. So that's where they fell in there and Purdue didn't. So there you go. Those are my winners and losers out of that Big Ten schedule. That was very fun this morning to wake up, had some coffee, was able to snuggle with my little boys, 8, 6, and 3 years old, and actually watch Big Noon Kickoff with them. So from that standpoint, it was fantastic. But sitting here not calling the game was not the funnest day of my entire life. So there you go. A little In the Klatt household in the booth brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It's always the official drink of Fansville. Appreciate you watching, and we'll be back on the road next week. We've got Kansas State at Oklahoma. Gus, Jenny, and I will be there, and we'll be kicking it off at 11 local time.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.